Holy smokes.
Oh, dear Lord. We are live. You are on YouTube live. Specifically, I hope you're at the right channel. This is Ryan Van Duzer's YouTube channel. Is this where you wanted to be today?
It's where I wanted to be.
Okay, good. Looks like we got Dana D in there. We love Dana. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. I'm going to let people join for a couple minutes, and then I will introduce you, and then we will get started. And I'm so excited and honored that you two are here, but also very excited and honored that I have so many viewers that will be joining us and that follow my channel. And it always makes me feel really good that I make content that gets seen by a lot of people, and that's a privilege. So thank you, everybody. What's up, Crystal? Hello, Donna Jo Bear. If you don't know, my mom's name is Donna Jo Bear. That is my mom. We're gonna let this. We're gonna let this fill up a little bit. So these comments you're seeing on the side here, that doesn't mean how many people are in here. That's just people who have chosen to comment. So welcome everybody to the.
Oh snap! Sorry, I had it on the other ones.
Yeah.
People.
What's up, Total Control? What's up, Amir, my man out in, was it New Jersey? Good to see you. I'm gonna let people join here for a couple minutes before I introduce them and get going. I'll probably say the same thing a few times because as the live stream goes, people joining are gonna miss some of it. So we got Dana doing the Ole chant. Ole, 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 ole. Here, we'll put that. I've never done a live stream with this software. It's really cool. We got Tom from New Hampshire. How you doing, Tom? Look at that.
Oh man.
Relatively peaceful New Hampshire. Good to hear.
It's very cool.
C. Staten, thank you for being here. Looking forward to the discussion.
Oh my god.
We got Biking Eric. He's one of my buddies from YouTube. Fat Man on a Bike from Klamath Falls, Oregon. Thank you so much. This is my man, Total Control. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. He has a channel of his own. Creates a lot of great content. Okay, now we're starting to fill up here. We're getting a lot of people. What's up, Israel Adams? How you doing? What's up, Brian, my man? How you doing? So a lot of these people I've actually met in real life at races or other events, and it's exciting to see them here, in YouTube land. We got somebody from Massachusetts. We got Minnesota. Oh, we got some. Bradley loves your glasses, Dee Dee.
Thank you, Bradley.
Yeah, we got Lucas Young. What's up, out of Illinois? We all know Lucas on my channel. He's the gentleman that I gave a Trek 920 to. He's one of my good buds now.
I have a Trek, Ryan.
You got a Trek bike?
Yes, I've had it for a year, like over a decade.
Oh, wow. That makes me happy. Good for you.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
We got John from Kingston, New Paltz. That's awesome. When we did Love Cycles, we rode right into New Paltz. That's in New York City, where you guys are. We got somebody from down south in Alabama. What's up, Jason? How you doing, my friend?
New Zealand. Wow.
Yeah, we got Gypsy Hiker Monica. Air hugs. How about some air hugs for everybody? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We've got New Orleans in there. Thank you, Alonso Garcia. We got Louisville, Kentucky. We've got pretty much all the United States covered right now.
Oh my gosh, Ohio.
Yeah,
England.
pretty exciting.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. New Zealand. That's the Atomic Weasel. I like that name. Hello, all the way from New Zealand. It's probably like
Canada.
Thursday afternoon there already. We got Lakeland, Florida. Thank you, Don Hamilton, for being here. Joe Mama said from Brownsville, Texas. We got our first Canadian, Rick from Vancouver. Love your city.
Dana loves your glasses too, Dee Dee.
Thank you. They help me to read.
We've got Miami in the house. What's up, C. Staten? How you doing? Oh, here we go. We got England. I know that it's late in England, so I appreciate you joining us. Dan Noble. He's got a Trek 9.7. That's a sweet bike. We got some Ohio people in there. We got Mike from Ohio. All right. So we got Fort Worth, Texas. Whoa. North Carolina, Crystal Bailey, who just got a new bike. Very excited about that. So a lot of these people I haven't met them in real life. Some of them I have, but they reach out and they let me know when they get new bicycles. And it's always very exciting that they share that news with me because I love the feeling of getting a new bike. And I appreciate when people share that news with me. And Crystal did just that. Pacific Northwest. Okay. So I think we have enough people in here. We'll let them stream on in as we get going. But I would like to officially welcome you ladies. We're going to get this, there, we're going to take that off the screen. I would like to officially welcome you ladies to my channel. These are my dear friends, Didi and Preeti. And I will first start out by saying something that I posted on social media today, and that's that this is a much different video than I'm used to making. You know, my videos, ever since I started on public access TV, the goal has been to inspire people to get out there. And usually it's in a physical way, whether it's running or biking. But out there can be anything uncomfortable, right? And right now there's a lot of uncomfortable things happening to our country and the world. And we're all struggling with how to face it and learn from it and analyze everything that's going on. And that's why I would love to have this conversation with you ladies, because well, let's just say it out loud. We got Black, we have Indian American. You are not well represented on my channel. My channel is heavily white. And so I want to amplify the voices on my channel that aren't represented very often. And so I really appreciate you being with me. And now I'll quickly introduce you. So I met these lovely ladies in Bali. Yes, Bali, Indonesia, of all places. Far, far, far away. I was there to film our friend's TV show, Michaela, who has a wonderful TV show on PBS called Bare Feet, where she dances with people all over the world. And that's how she connects with culture. And she had this whole dance trip. And you know Michaela from being in her dance classes in New York City. And it was totally random. I was the only guy on this trip with a whole bunch of wonderful ladies. And we quickly became wonderful friends. This was what, 5-6 years ago? You both have been to Boulder. You've been to my house. You've met my mom. You've met some of my friends. I've met you in New York City. And that's essentially how we all know each other. So welcome, Didi and Preeti, to the channel.
Well, thanks, Ryan. I think we're super excited, if not a little nervous, to be here on our first YouTube Live situation.
Well, and
Hella nervous.
Your glasses don't look nervous, so you're looking great, Didi.
Well, thank you. No, truly, Ryan. I was really almost like, well, what do we have to say? I don't know what to say. When you invited us a few days ago to come and speak to your very loyal, amazing family of bikers in the community. We have a podcast, and we had done an episode just this past Saturday about activism and the toll that it takes on the activists and what everybody's role is moving forward, because it's undeniable that we're at a critical crossroads right now.
Yes.
I think that is because of many historical things. I also think it's because everybody's been on lockdown all over the world for months, and that's never happened before. And there's a lot more time to think deeply. There are a lot fewer distractions. And so here we are. And so Ryan just saw a bit of our very brief live after that episode was aired. And we were just, Preeti and I were just kind of shooting the breeze. But we always do. And then Ryan said, I what you guys are saying and what your perspective, it's really not anything that I'm getting. And I've been in a rabbit hole this whole weekend and this whole week, and I want to share this. And so to me, I'm like, but Preeti and I were just shooting it like we always do. But the fact that you saw something in what we had to say and thought it was meaningful really means a lot to me. And I thank you. I thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
I hope I don't let you down, Ryan.
No, I don't. Just being here is already an amazing thing. And let's just get started. And let's start. I want to talk to some of the viewers out there that are watching. I know in a YouTube Live, I usually pay attention to comments and I answer questions as I go. I'm not really going to do that while these ladies are talking. I want to pay attention to what they're saying. After I ask a few questions, then you can chime in and ask questions or leave comments or whatever. You can leave them now if you want. I'm just not going to pay a whole lot of attention to that right now. And so that is that. And so I'd like to start off with a bit of hope. It's been a heavy week. You know, we witnessed the murder of George Floyd. We saw the Central Park lady using her cell phone as a weapon and calling the cops on an African American bird watcher. When you see this, what has given you hopes amidst all of this? Like watching the news, watching the protests, what gives you hope right now?
Preeti, take it.
Let's go, Preeti.
It's a little difficult to have hope, right? But I think that we must. It what drives change. It's what drives us to think about things in a way where we have understanding and positivity. But I think, look, for once, this conversation gives me hope, right? I think any conversation that you have with the community that you're not normally tapped into gives me hope. The idea that you brought forth to us, what Dee Dee had mentioned earlier, that gives me hope. There's, another part of it, which I think we were on the live and we had my friend's 14-year-old daughter jump on. She's a loyal listener, and she started asking a lot of questions. And so that gave me hope, because we've got this second wave, or this younger generation of activists, who are really going to make a difference, right? And so she's already asking the questions and telling her friends, what can we do? So I think there's different pockets of hope for me. I don't, but I have days where it does feel a little hopeless. And I think that's where you get into community and connection, and having people remind you that, we have come far, not far enough. But Dee mentioned it earlier too. You couldn't have asked for a better time for this racial pandemic to be at the forefront of all of these conversations, because it is forcing people to take time to understand what's really happening. So I don't know.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely.
I fully piggyback on everything that Preeti just said. And I truly, I'll put this out there to my now friends of Ryan's. Y'all are now friends of mine. Just go with it. And I talk about this on the podcast all the time. I'm in therapy and have been in therapy for about a year. And one of the lessons that I have learned there is that not everything that I feel is actually fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of this past week has made me feel gutted and despair and sad and like waves of just overwhelming exhaustion, among other things. I haven't fully processed all of it, and I'm sure a lot of you haven't either. At the same time, I know that just because I am feeling this, it does not constitute the entire reality of what we are working with. And I just have to know, and we all have to know, that don't let what you immediately see force you to distort what is possible. And I derive a lot of hope right now from history, because I think that I can look to recent examples of horrible oppression that has really harmed human beings very recently that changed. And the most recent one that I can really relate to is the fight for marriage equality that in our very recent lifetime just got overturned. And I remember the time when that was not what was acceptable. That was something that was highly vilified, and the fight for allies to step forward and say, look, this is wrong, period. We're not gonna, say, okay, it's all right, but just stay over on here, on this side, and say, we're not gonna allow the violence, we're not gonna allow the hatred, we're not gonna allow the discrimination. But that did take time to get the change, but it has come. Now, I don't want to paint a rosy picture and say that all of that is over, because homophobia is still very real. Violence against members of the LGBTQIA plus community is still very real. At the same time, we have seen legislative and policy change. And that is a source of hope for me now. I do believe that if enough allies, not just the folks who are being discriminated against, but if everybody stands up, on a fundamental belief that we're all human, we are all human, and none of us are going to tolerate this anymore, I do believe that change is possible.
Right
And
on.
if it weren't for a pandemic, I might not feel this way. But everybody's got time now. So it's like, all right, get about your activism.
Exactly. You both live in New York City. I don't know if I told the listeners that. Dee, you live in Brooklyn. Preeti, you're on Manhattan, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's it been like to walk the streets? How have people been looking at you and treating you in New York City right now? It's also the epicenter of the pandemic. New York is, a lot of big worldwide historical events have happened in New York, and it's happening right now outside of your doors. What's it like?
Preeti, go ahead. You go first.
I still try and get this video thing, like who talks first. On the one hand, you said, how are people responding to you? I think you asked that question. And New York has always been extremely diverse in many areas. I don't really actually see a response to me any different. I think what has been happening is sort of an introspection of people's own lives, and how they are going about their day. So I don't want to categorize it as selfish, but oddly, it feels very empty in many ways, right? It feels like we've lost this little bit of, obviously there's tremendous amount of people that have left the city, but it feels as though we've lost a little bit of that connection with each other as well, which is sort of rooted in fear initially. But it's surreal to be around. It's odd too. You guys know that we now have an 8 p.m. curfew. So I was out yesterday, probably around 7, and all the stores were closing, and I hadn't remembered. It just feels, it doesn't feel as though it feels hard, and it feels lonely, to be perfectly honest, because even on those connection points that you normally would have, you don't have them on an everyday basis. But, Ryan, you said it before, the city's been through several different tumultuous events that we've come through. And I don't think that's going to be any different now. In fact, I hope we come through this with a renowned sense of community, quite honestly. And I think that will be the case.
Right on.
Very similarly, here in Brooklyn's in the house. It does feel surreal at times, and like, am I living in an episode or a game of SimCity or something? Like, oh my gosh, because I live around the block, Ryan, from one of the precincts that was one of the protest sites on Friday night. And we had actually just finished recording an episode, and I was going to get some food in my kitchen, and then all I just hear are police sirens and people, and it's a very quaint neighborhood. So I'm like, what is going on? And then you just see all these people outside. And so I didn't understand what was happening, and then hopped on my phone and see, the Barclay Center protest had been dispersed, and that the officers were starting to throw tear gas at people. And that right there was just devastating, because anybody who's ever been to Brooklyn knows that the line from the Biggie Smalls song is real. Spread love. That's the Brooklyn way. So all of us who come from all over to live in Brooklyn, and all the people who are from Brooklyn, no, that is not how we do. And so the fact that the police would become violent against peaceful people was heartbreaking. And then it was like minute by minute you hear, and now they're on their way to the 88th precinct and the 84th precinct and the 89th precinct. I'm like, wait a minute, that's right down the street. Oh my God, that was terrifying. The following day, I was afraid to go outside. But I saw people jogging because it was a beautiful Saturday morning. I mean, the weather was gorgeous. And so I'm like, well, I'll risk it. But when I was coming to the door, the front of my building, I literally was like, is the coast clear? And it was. And that's getting back to the whole, there's such a need to stay in the moment right now, because there's so much anxiety that especially the news is flooding us with. It's very easy to just stay up here. And so just going outside, seeing that things had calmed down and quieted down, did my heart a lot of good. And I was able to walk to the park like I like to do on a Saturday morning and get my vegetables from the farmer's market, and all that was fine. However, on the way, I did see graffiti that people had put up that had never been there before, with expletives against the police and, statements of protest. And so the marks and the badges were still there. And we have been on lockdown ever since. So there are cops on the corner. We hear helicopters at night. See, it's different in Manhattan, but this is where, there were so many people. It does feel like there's still a little bit of a chokehold. And that is stress inducing. Mm-hmm. Is that the word? It's making me feel anxious.
Yeah.
Very, very anxious. So I find it's just, and on that walk, I just started crying. I did start crying because all of it just started to hit me. So this is a very long answer to your question. Strangers did in the street come up or would see me and they're like, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" There was a lot of that because everybody in the neighborhood had gone through the same thing. And this was multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multiracial. Everybody had just gone through this night, and we're still going through it. So that also gave me a feeling of, it's not as bad as it's bad as it seems, in the sense of all this has to stop. But there are still traces and reasons to push for the change, because most people are not what we saw on that video. Mm-hmm. In any color, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Most people really aren't. But it's easy to feel that way. It's easy to feel that about all police officers. If that was the case, we'd all be extinct. But yeah, so that's Brooklyn life these days. And my curfew starts really soon. So you better hurry this up because I got to go get a pizza.
I'll order you a pizza. It'll be at your door, no problem.
Cool.
It's so wild, right, to be on curfew, to get those alerts. And it really, it's nothing that we've ever experienced.
Yeah, I haven't been on a curfew since I was about 15. Listen.
Didi, were you obedient? Did you sneak out of your house?
I had a stairwell, like a spiral stairway outside of my bedroom as a kid. I never used it. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
I was afraid of my mom.
You were a good girl.
I used to sneak out all the time.
Yeah,
nice. I'm not surprised.
So Didi, you mentioned quickly at the end there that this has to stop. And there's been protests all over the country and the world for George Floyd, and everybody is demanding justice. That's what this is all about. This is activism. What does justice look like to both of you? What would justice be in this situation? Besides just the cops getting convicted, there's got to be more.
So for me, and I'll jump in on that one first, Preeti. I'm also a lawyer. Please don't judge me. Please do not judge me. But the way in which his prosecution is already beginning, I feel frustrated, because when you are charged with a crime, there's certain steps or there's certain degrees of crime. Anybody who's watched an SVU episode or something, about first degree, second degree, third degree, all that. And the level of murder that he has been charged with, even if he is found guilty by a jury of 12 people who look at all the evidence and say, oh yeah, he really did, take this person's life deliberately or recklessly, there is no requirement that he actually be sentenced. So what does that mean? You can be arrested. Where are my fingers? You can be arrested. You can be convicted, found guilty, and you still don't have your freedom taken away from you. And that doesn't feel like justice to me. Justice to me would feel like he is arrested. Okay, we got that. But he is charged with the level of murder that gets you maximum sentences, period. Now, I am not a proponent of the death penalty. I am not, for whole other reasons. I do think that I wouldn't lose any sleep if he was not free for the rest of his life. That's just me. And every other person who stood by and allowed him to do that, who had a shield on, that says that they are duty bound to respect, protect, and to honor, I would lose no sleep if they also spent the rest of their life in jail. Because the thing is, when these atrocities happen, they're not just taking away that person's life. These sorts of incidences, they traumatize entire communities. My mother was born and grew up in the same neighborhood where Emmett Till was lynched in the early 1950s. That one killing almost set the tone for their community in the same way that the massacre of Sandy Hook in Connecticut, where I'm originally from, has continued to cause grief and mourning for many people, not just the parents, not just the siblings, but the entire town, the entire state. And so to me, for them to walk free, no, that does not feel like justice. I think they all need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I also think that it's time for there to no longer be any tolerance whatsoever for people who decide that they are going to recklessly kill innocent people. And innocent Black people seem to be the ones who get the brunt of it. So if they do, I think they should automatically lose their jobs and they should automatically lose their pensions. Now, that's just me. I don't know any other employer or job that you can work where you get to kill people and keep your job. I know people who get fired for coming in late too often. I know people who get fired for looking at their boss the wrong way. I know people who get fired for, using up too much of the company ink. Let them kill someone. It's like, why does this even seem like an outrageous ask? It's, to me, this is an opportunity for another Me Too movement. There now is no tolerance at all. If a woman so much as, or even a man, if a person feels that they have been assaulted inappropriately, you're out on your ass. And that's just it. You don't get a golden parachute. You let the justice process do what it's going to do, but you cannot let taxpayers continue to bankroll your life. That doesn't make fundamental sense to me. But that's just me. But maybe it's not. I hope it's not. What do you think?
I don't think it's just you.
No, I don't think it's just you. We got to preach, sister, from my buddy Amir out in New.
Hey,
what's that?
Dee, I agree with the no tolerance and the accountability. And even though the charges were up to second-degree murder today, and all the other officers were charged as well, they 100%, these cases historically, better than me, have not been won in the court of law. So the immediate justice would have been the no tolerance, the end, right? That's it. To your point, I think, long term, you brought it up as well. It really is about the institutional practices, laws that we can enforce on the state and local level. So to me, justice also looks like voting, right? Because that's, we historically talk about voting in terms of the presidency, but it's at the state and local level where that change is really enforced. And so also, I believe historically that turnout has been low. So this is where, everyone here can make a difference by ensuring that they show up and that they're electing officials that they know or trust, that they can make those fundamental changes, right? Because that's what's going to loop back to the accountability. So for me, that's what justice looks like in the long term. And it's not so long term. We just have to take action.
I mean, it's an election year. And I know, it's different for every state. So, I am submitting to everybody, go and do your homework to find out, is it too late to put propositions on the ballots in your local area? Because if it's not, you guys get creative. Say, you know what, we want a George Floyd policy. We want a George Floyd policy in this town or in this state or whatever that says you lose your job if you kill an unarmed person. How ridiculous. And if that was on the ballot, I think that right now a lot of people would be in favor of it. And if you can't get it on this one, work to get it on the next one.
Right on.
Right on. That's what my hands are doing.
So a lot of people have felt outrage over the past week. And along with that, powerlessness. They don't know what to do. You know, people are reaching out to their Black friends or brown friends or people that don't look like them, which I think inherently is a good thing. Have you guys been experiencing this? And how does it make you feel when somebody says, hey, Dee Dee, what can I do? Or help me understand this? Or Preeti, like how does it make you feel?
Well, thank you for asking, because this came up very profoundly in the conversation we had on Saturday. And I actually just got one of those from a dear friend of mine last night at like 1 a.m. And it was an email, and the subject was just hi. And she just said, you know what? I'm thinking about you right now. I miss you. I love you. You don't even have to respond to this. Just know I'm here. And if there's anything at all, I'll be checking on you. And that was it. And I got to say, that felt great.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't asking me to do any work, quite frankly. Had she included in that, by the way, what do you think that I can do to help fight against 400 years of racism? I would have had a different response. That would have made me feel like, you know what, go Google it. I got too much to do right now, which is try to survive. I got cops at every corner. You want me to do that work for you? Really? Really? The historical irony of that right now? Seriously? No, I'm not doing that work for you. So I appreciate that she seemed to be a little woke about, there are memes going on and all kind of posts going around. It's like, don't ask your Black friends to do nothing or explain anything to you right now because we are exhausted. That's true. I'm putting that out there. But I don't know, Preeti, how do you feel?
Well, I just want to echo that because you mentioned it came up on our podcast with David Johns, and it was something, my nature is to help everyone. Right? My nature is to say, okay, what do you need? Like, let me point you in the right direction. And during that conversation with David Johns, when he had said, one of his friends had reached out to him and he was just exhausted and fired back. Look, if you guys are on social media and if you're sort of following any conversation around this has come up multiple times on the exhaustion you feel of when people ask, and there's this back and forth of like, I'm just trying to help. And so I think it's super important to state again, you can't ask your Black brothers and sisters to help you figure this out because there is so much out there for you to engage in and understand and be able to educate. I keep coming back to this education type thing on what to do and what to say. So I don't know. I wanted to emphasize that point again because it was quite honestly lost on me being the type of person I am until we had that conversation, until he responded in the way that he did. And, I've said this many times. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I think to underscore what you just said, it's not that folks don't want to point you in the right direction or offer, useful recommendations. And there are plenty of people that can and will do that for sure. It's just the understanding that it actually would not take a whole lot of effort at all. With Google at everyone's fingertips, it is so easy. You can go to the NAACP. I'll give you that one for free. You can go to their legal defense fund. You can Google bail fund for protesters. You can read books about, what is white supremacy? How does this stuff work? And I will just very quickly say, this is a shameless plug to those who are consumers of media and things like Netflix. I had the distinct honor and privilege of being part of a company that produced a powerful play on Broadway called American Son this past fall, 2 falls ago, and it got translated into a Netflix movie. So if you don't want to read a book, you don't want to do a Google search, just flick on Netflix and watch American Son, because not only does the movie itself address exactly what we are dealing with now, police brutality. But there are also resources that we paid a company of activists to put together about how to have these kinds of conversations that you can find when you watch the movie or when you Google it. So shameless plug, if anybody watched Scandal, it was starring Kerry Washington and some other amazing actors. Yeah, I put that out there, sorry. And I don't get paid for watching it. So I just want to make that clear as well. This is coming from my heart and not the desires of my pocket, although those are very steep too.
I had something earlier about this actually, and in terms of the types of media to consume, and that was on the list in the read, watch, activate sort of idea and listen. And you know what the great thing is when you say about consuming content and reaching out and educating, grabbing books. This gave me a little bit of hope. There's a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist, and I'm sure we've all heard about this book by Ibram Kendi, and it's completely sold out currently on Amazon. So that tells me that there's intense interest in understanding, this movement and what needs to be done. So that's good.
Yeah.
And Amazon will suggest similar books if you can't get that one, because folks have been writing about it for a long time.
And I'm not a big Amazon fan. I'm a big proponent of trying to find books locally. It's okay.
Yes. There are Black-owned books.
Find your books locally. I think that's great. I actually just checked out a bunch of books last night, ebooks through my library, just doing some research. I've been consuming more media than I ever have in my life about race and racial issues and history of Black people in this country and around the world. And it's opened up my eyes way more than I've ever been. And, I grew up in Boulder, which is super duper white. I had one Black friend growing up, and then my best friend in the Peace Corps was a Black guy. So I don't have a whole lot of color in my life. Yes, I have a pretty tight connection with the Latino community from living in Honduras and Mexico and being able to speak Spanish and all that. But this is all fairly new to me, and I'm guessing that is similar for everybody listening right here and a lot of other people in the United States and around the world. So it is a great opportunity to learn more. And yeah, we are in quarantine, kind of. We have time to read and we have time to watch. This is great. So go check some of this stuff out. I'll give you an example of some of the things I just downloaded. Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, Me and White Supremacy, When They Call You a Terrorist, and another one called So You Want to Talk About Race. I have not started them yet, but they were recommended to me by my local library. And I'm guessing everybody out there who's watching, you can get all this stuff for free from your local library, and you can get them onto your smartphone or whatever. And your library will suggest these types of books for you.
Oh, Ava DuVernay also just released a companion program to accompany her I think it was a 5-part mini series, When They See Us, that is also running on Netflix, and that deals with what happened to the Central Park Five in the 80s.
Yeah.
And she now has a whole program that she has created about how people can advocate against police brutality, can advocate against wrongful convictions of innocent people. And all of that is online. So just Ava DuVernay, When They See Us, and the program, it just got launched last week. And yeah,
and
there's a lot out there.
There's so much out there. And if you just want to not do any of that, and social media on Instagram, there is still plenty of information there too. So, you can start small and branch out into all these wonderful suggestions. There's also a lot of great podcasts.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable for people. Okay, sorry, quick plug. Their podcast, I forgot to tell you, is called The Bali Effect. I will link it down below after this video is done, and it'll take you directly there. They have many, many wonderful conversations. They started this up about, 6 months ago. The Bali Effect, and that is the effect that we had when we all met in Bali. We had this synergy, we had this magic, and it just goes to show, watching my YouTube channel, yeah, it's about bikes, it's about running, it's about adventure, but if you look in almost every single video, it's about humanity, it's about the people I meet, it's about the connections that I have, and I love sharing their stories. So yes, I get comments like, stay in your lane, Ryan, stick to bikes, stick to running. I'm sticking to humanity. That is my lane, and it will always be my lane, right? And I think people need to remember that, where it's just like, we're all in this together. We're all humans. We live on this planet, and we need to, sounds cheesy, but we need to love one another more than ever right now. And I highlighted this comment right here just because it was just, it's judge people by character, not by color. And none of us are born racist. This is all racist. This is all stuff we learn. It's not in our DNA to hate, ever, never. This is stuff we learn. So if we can, even if you are racist at age 20, you can unlearn it, right?
It's like diabetes, fully reversible. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
It accumulates and then it can go away.
It's true, and this came up when we talked on the live about the love component and humanity. And, there's something along the lines of a collective consciousness, right? And so the more we embrace feeling this way and loving one another, and really acknowledging each other as humans, that will spread, that will continue to grow.
Can I hop in? And Ryan, I don't mean to interject.
This is your show. This is you. This is all
no,
you.
This is you. This is your people. I mean, your bike people. Let me clarify. Yes. You mentioned that, these are uncomfortable conversations. And for me, having conversations about the reality of racism, it started so early because I was born in America, and this problem had not been fixed and healed. And I remember the first time, I became kind of aware of there was something different between me and my friends and whatnot. I was like 4 years old. And I just want to ask you, so, your parents heartbreakingly have to kind of start that in Black families pretty early on. But so by the time, you're 30 something, you're pretty like, oh, this is just like breathing oxygen.
Or just like 41.
Whatever. We're fudging the numbers. But for a lot of my friends who aren't Black, they do feel uncomfortable talking about, things about racism. And I just want to ask you, as an honorary member of the village, but not a Black person, why is it uncomfortable, do you think, for people who aren't Black to have these conversations? Is it just a matter of not being in practice or something else?
It might be a mix of all those things, not in practice. And I definitely think you're right. It is uncomfortable, and it has been uncomfortable for me over the years. I grew up in Boulder. It's really liberal and white, and we love everybody, and we don't see color. Everybody, you can be Black or white or polka dot, and I am okay with that. And so when you say, when you talk about racist, or you're called out as a racist, or even the title of this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, you're like, well, I'm not racist. Why would I need to read this book? And I think it's uncomfortable because we don't have the experience or the education, growing up in this town. Like I said, I had one Black friend, and I love everybody. I'm a hippie. I think it's uncomfortable because we don't like being called out on truths. And whether or not we want to admit it, we all are on the spectrum of racism. I think I definitely am. I'm learning every day. Am I perfect? Not at all. I'm not having this conversation to brag to everybody, look how woke and white I am. It's a difficult thing. And I think it's important because difficult conversations always lead to the most meaningful results. And America needs to have this conversation. So it does give me hope that people are looking up these books. And a lot of these books are on back order right now because so many people are trying to learn more. Our country is, pretty young as far as a country goes. There's a lot of growing pains still going on. And we had the race walks and riots in the 60s and, a lot of the other, Rodney King and this going on in the early 90s. But we're still not there. We're so far from there. And I think I went a little off course there. But the answer is yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's important.
So another thing that my therapist has taught me, you can survive being in an uncomfortable moment.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And she's like, you want to, because I'm like anti-conflict. I don't want to do confrontation, like none of it. And sometimes she's like, no, sometimes you need to stand up for yourself, because on the other side of that is a stronger version of yourself. And as much as I kick and scream, she has to remind me, it's like, you are strong enough to withstand an uncomfortable moment. And it's great that you are acknowledging that it's tough, because then you can ready yourself mentally. It's pump yourself up however you need to. Be like, all right, this is going to sting a little bit, but here we go.
Yeah.
And then there is a stronger, I think, more peaceful, more just body politic and just America that is waiting for us to get there. So, it's like getting a shot, getting the vaccine that we're all waiting for. It's going to hurt, but then you'll be better.
That's a good way to put it. I love it. Speaking you want to go? Preeti?
Yeah, I see it. I actually see a comment that I wanted to address. If you
tell me which one it is. I'll highlight it.
It's Total Control 871.
Okay. Where is that? He's done a lot. Our Native American one?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. So, just to clarify the point, I'm South Asian. So my parents are from India. They came here in the late 60s. But the reason why I'm highlighting this question is I think it's a good one, because it really, what you're asking is, this sort of race ladder, if you will, or the race of, are any other people of color targeted for traffic stops like Black men, and I think that, I don't know the percentage, but that is no, but you have different moments in time where that racism peaks. And so most notably for me, and people of brown skin, whether that be South Asian or other, was after 9/11. So, you have moments in time where, in that particular time, there was many men of color that were not Black that were stopped for various reasons. So I think it's a good question to highlight, just because I want people to understand that racism is not all equal, shockingly so, right? So, but it's not to the same extent. It's just, it comes in different forms. And I appreciate you asking that question, actually.
I'm going to highlight another one really quick here. And this is just to send some love to you ladies, and I think he probably means beautiful in all ways. Of course, you're beautiful physically as well. And he's just appreciating that this is a change of pace from the news. So thank you so much. Looks like Patrice.
Thank you, Patrice. Are you married? Are you single?
Are you single? We can turn this into a dating show if you want.
That would be great.
I think all of us are single here, right?
No. Well,
anyway.
But I do want to add. We'll get there later. Let's do another one of these.
Can you tell your internet man to get your broadband going? You're looking a little fuzzy.
It's me or Dee Dee?
Oh, sorry, Dee Dee.
I don't know what to do. I look clear.
Just kidding.
That away. But I wanted to add to something that the Preeti had said. Oh no, it triggered this in my mind. Toni Morrison, who's one of the greats. I saw her give a talk before she passed, and she said something that blew me away. She said, so many people think that racism is something that harms the target. So whether it's whatever race you are, and if you're on the receiving end of it, that you are the victim of it. But she said what people need to understand is that racism is inherently internecine. Now, I had to look that word up. But she went on to explain it does as much danger to the person who's giving it as it does to the person who is receiving it. Because on both sides of that is a dehumanization. Mm-hmm. If you look at me and you truly think that I am not a full human being, that is a projection of a distortion in your own spirit, because it's not true. It's just not true. And whatever it took for you to believe that, to get yourself to that point, needs to be addressed. And so, and I say that in response to the question about, are Native Americans the one? Think about it in terms of the person, anybody who is stopping, any person is suffering as much as the person who is being stopped. And so that is not just a Black problem. It's a white cop problem. It's an any cop problem. And that is why all of us are being, I think, we're so inextricably linked to one another. That is why the protests that I have seen in New York, they are multiracial. It's a lot of people who don't look like me who are outraged, because at the end of it, we actually are, I'm trying to get my hands, we're connected. Yeah. We're really connected. We might deny it. There's all kind of repression, but it's time for the reckoning. And we can get through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's coming.
I want to highlight a comment here. This takes a lot to admit this kind of stuff. And I think people are finally admitting this. For my friend Crystal, I also came from a long line of a racist family. When I married my husband, I was disowned by my family. It was 7 years before we ever spoke again. My family came around. People can change. And thank you, Crystal, for sharing that with us. And I think that's a good example of a lot of what we live with every day. You can't even love the person you want to love without your family disowning you. That's heavy. That's hard.
But for Crystal to make that decision takes what we all need, which is an incredible amount of courage. So I commend you, Crystal. Really, truly.
Yep. Here's another one. Here we go.
Yeah.
Taught to be racist at a young age. Tried to live not so racist since becoming an adult. And I'm excited to learn more about love. Talks like this help. Thank you so much, Justin, for leaving that comment. And thank you, ladies, for, leading the charge.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Justin.
Yeah. Awesome. A similar thing happened to two of my cousins. They both married folks who weren't Black, and the families disowned them and came around much later and are now having like the greatest time. For whatever reasons, it seemed to come around when grandchildren started to be born, because it's like, you're missing out on your grandkids. And what mother doesn't want to like just involve herself in her grandkids' life? But, you have to have those, reckonings with your own ideology and what you've been taught. And then you're like, wait a minute, is my feeling actually fact? But you can always change your mind. And that's the premise of our podcast, is the Poly Effect. It's all about the pivotal life moments where you can really turn it around. That's our whole thing. That's our jam. That's our hook right there. So, I would love to get like someone who's like honest enough to be like, I was once a racist, but now I love everybody.
What some of these comments and that reminds me of, like sometimes on a very basic level, you just want everyone to understand how incredibly delicious it is to see people as humans and nothing else, because they're missing out. I mean, look at us. Like I can tell you that some of truly, I mean, we're old, but some of the greatest moments in the past 6 years have been with you guys. And so I really, it's like having a piece of chocolate cake and someone being like, I love chocolate, but that doesn't look good. And you're like,
chocolate's always good.
Chocolate is always good. I wanted to highlight another comment here. I've seen an Aryan Brotherhood member get his tattoos removed because he had an interracial granddaughter. Good for him. I mean, that's big. And when you have something on your body like that just spells out hate without ever even having to open your mouth, that's some deeply ingrained evil stuff to have tattoos like that. And then to like make the conscious decision, you're like, no, I am not that person anymore. Taking them off. I love it.
And you know what? This same transformation can happen in the people who currently occupy the power that is harming Black life and is harming our society. Imagine, this is what has given me hope. I'm like, I know they can turn it around. So don't have the overwhelming, sadness of the moment make you believe that, that this is so deeply rooted that it can't be stormed out. Look, there once was total acceptance of people being marched into gas chambers.
Yeah.
That's now history. Let's make this shit history. We can do it.
Look at this comment. One of my favorites.
Yeah. How about this one? Practice yoga. Yoga helps raising consciousness. The more you rise consciousness, the more you get a peaceful society.
Cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
She's a yoga trained person.
So we've been going, yeah, for sure. We've been going for 55 minutes, and I want to get Dee Dee out on her evening walk before the curfew starts in Brooklyn. And you was that? That means you have 5 minutes, Dee Dee?
It's too late. It's too late. It's fine.
I gotta order. Please, somebody send Dee Dee some flowers and pizza because she can't leave her house because she was talking to us.
It's okay. It was so worth it. It was truly.
And I want to thank my viewers for being here today because it's a much different piece of content than I'm used to putting out. And I thank you for joining us and interacting with these ladies and your comments and your questions. And this video will live on my channel forever. You can continue the conversation. These ladies both host the Bali Effect podcast. You can find them at the Bali Effect on Instagram. I will link it all down below and wherever you get your.
We also have a YouTube channel.
And they have a YouTube channel. That's right. They just started a YouTube channel. How about this? Well, should we end off reading this one? You guys want to read this one out loud?
Yes, because it's from one of my favorite people, Asha Modi, who joins. She's my very dear friend's daughter. And it says, love over fear, love over hate. That is a message that needs to be heard. And I think that is incredibly true.
From the mouth of babes.
That was going to be the last one, but look at this. I'm single. Can I marry all of you? Happy Pride. Hotties against racism.
We should start that YouTube channel. Hotties against racism.
Thank you all so much for joining. Everybody out there in the world, wherever you are, and for supporting my channel and being part of this. And we're going to continue this conversation. I'm going to get some more people on here, and we're going to keep talking about this. And we're never maybe going to get it 100% right, but we're going to get better every day. And that is the goal, to get out there, right? Not just on your bike or up the mountain, to get out there in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, and challenge yourself in every way possible. That is what will make you a better human. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
1, 2, 3, bye.